So today we are going to go through all of my eyeshadow stats. I kind of wanted to do this at mid-year. We're a little bit past mid-year now, but we're going to look at in total like all the eyeshadow pans that I've hit, not like one by one individually, but I'm going to just go through like the stats, what colors I've hit the most on, what type, has it been a shimmer, a matte, duochrome, my top 5 palettes, my top brands that I've hit, the average time it takes me to hit on certain brands, things like that. I just thought I would lump them all together in one little neat little video. So if you are nerdy like me and you like makeup stats like this, then this probably should be the video for you. So I did this kind of like 7 months ago back in December, and I thought it was a lot of fun. And so we are looking at it now again. Okay, so I'm going to start off with just the basics, right? So eyeshadow pans that I currently have total is 119 in my collection. My pan percentage has actually gone up quite a lot. I'm at 9.17%, which I am very, very pleased about. I've been doing a pretty decent job. I'm trying to get that 10% mark. Not that I really care. It is kind of an arbitrary number that I have in my mind. But if I hit 10%, I'm like, ooh, I could just like stretch that and make it higher. So I'm currently at 9.17, which is exciting because I was hovering around the 8% mark for a long time. So yeah, that is my goal. So I'm itching closer. Obviously, if I start buying a lot more palettes again, then that will dip down. But I've been really good at not buying any eyeshadow for the last month and a half, I would say. I think the last eyeshadow palettes that I bought was the Glamshop Nearly Natural palette and also the Gourmand Girls Call of the Sirens. Those were my last, oh no, but I didn't buy it. I also got a Gloss Gods one, but that was free with purchase. So anyway, those were my, no, yes, I can't remember. Anyway, it's been at least a month since I have bought any eyeshadow, which good for me, right? We'll see if that lasts. And anyway, so yeah, my percentage is 9.17, which is pretty cool. In terms of all the eyeshadow pans I've hit so far this year, I'm at 28. So that's pretty cool. That's a little bit higher than where it was last year. On average, I was hitting maybe, I think, around the 20-ish mark this time last year. So that's pretty good that I've almost stepped it up, you know, another 8. Not that I'm really trying to beat myself versus last year. I'm not even I don't really feel the pressure this year to hit pan. I'm just like doing it and enjoying it. And obviously I have all these projects that I'm involved in, but I don't feel too much pressure to do it. So that's kind of cool that it's pretty high. Okay, let's go through my top 5 palettes by usage. So a lot of these you're just going to be familiar with because I kind of speak about them all year long and also kind of makes sense. But my top one is my Shadow Kiss from Alter Ego. It is one of my Pan palettes for this year. I've used it 177 times so far this year. This is what it's looking like. If you haven't been following me, obviously there's quite a nice little chunk of use there. Next up is another Pan palette for the year. This is a Naughty Nude from Huda Beauty. I've used this 124 times. So a little bit less than the other one, but it's still getting loved and quite a bit of use on it, and I'm still enjoying it, to be fair. Then we have my Kaleidos Club Nebula palette. So this one I've only used 70 times. I say I only, but compared to those other two, it's definitely a big drop, but it's still a lot for an eyeshadow palette that is so old. I'm actually really excited that I'm getting use on a lot of my old palettes. It was rolled into my project level up though, so that's why I got so much use on this and extra pans. I also have used this one. This is my 4th most used palette for the year. I've used this 59 times. This is the Lethal Cosmetics Avatar Air palette, and it's still currently in my project level up, but I am quite nearly done. I just need to hit more pans in it basically, but that one 59 times. And then my 5th most used palette is actually Glamshop's Rich Romantic, which I'm so pleased about because I love this palette. This one I've used 41 times. A lot of those uses were on this shade because I was trying to hit that pan. But I also did like a 3 looks 1 palette with this and everything. So I got some decent use out of this palette this year, obviously. In terms of my top 5 in general, it's not that different, I have to say. But the first one is the Urban Decay Stone Vibes. It's my Pan palette from last year. So this, again, not surprised. I have a total of 328 uses on this. That's not all from last year, obviously. That is like, in general, my total uses since I've been tracking my use. I did get this palette before I started tracking my use, so honestly, it would be even higher. But Since I've been tracking, it's at 328. Obviously, it's a very old palette, and I did have it for my Pound That palette. Then next up is the Shadow Kiss from Alter Ego. So this one's at 248 uses so far. So there is a lot of use on this one. Also, my Huda Beauty Naughty Nude is number 3. I'm at 209 in total for this palette. And then we have another palette that I haven't yet spoken about. We've got the Sample Beauty Equalizer Volume 2. I've used this a total of 191 times. And this is what it looks like. This was rolled into a Project Level Up. I've had it in my Pan Those Eyeshadows, and I have had it for quite a long time too. So it's had quite a fair amount of use. I still love this palette. It's old and it's getting all crusty and busty, but I still love it. I think it's nice. And then another one I haven't yet spoken about is another Alter Ego palette. This is the Artemis, and I've used this 174 times. So this one also got a lot of use. It was rolled into one of my Project Level Ups, and there's just a lot of shades in here, so I got a lot of use because I had to go into every single shade a certain amount of times and also hit a certain amount of pans. I also really like this palette too, so I currently pulled it from my Shop My Stash, so I actually want to go into it just naturally and organically, and I will do over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, I really enjoy this one. So I'm happy that like most of my old palettes are all my most used and loved and cherished, and they all have pans, and I really like them. Okay, then I thought, let's talk about the brands, right? Because I don't really talk about brands, like my top brands by usage. So just for this year, I'll just go through the brands I've used the most. Again, the top 2 aren't going to be a surprise. Alter Ego is at the top at 187 uses in total. I do have 3 Alter Ego palettes, so it makes sense. Then we have Huda Beauty. I have 128 uses so far this year. I have just 2 palettes from Huda Beauty, so most of that has gone to the Naughty Nude, but I also have the Mercury Retrograde palette. And then my third most used brand, which I don't talk about that much, is Colourpop. I have 125 uses from Colourpop this year. This year alone, and I don't talk about it because they're all my Colourpop singles, and I'm doing a No Pan Left Behind. I have so many Colourpop singles, it is absolutely absurd. And I don't really talk about it because they're not like palettes anymore, they're just singles. But I have 125 uses on them just this year. And if you're wondering, like, how do you count your uses? It's just anytime I go into one shade during that one day, right? I can go into multiple different shades from different Colourpop palettes or Alter Ego palettes or Naughty Nude palettes, or not Naughty Nude, Huda Beauty palettes. It's just every time I use one shade, I count it as a use, right? Okay, then my 4th most used brand this year so far is Cosmic Beauty, which doesn't surprise me. I believe I have 5 of their palettes now. I do have a lot of Cosmic Beauty, so I'm glad that's getting up there. I have 95 uses from Cosmic Beauty. And then my 5th most used, was actually also at 95, is Gloss Gods, which doesn't surprise me. I probably have between like 12 to 14 palettes of theirs, maybe even more. I haven't actually counted, but I do have a lot of their collection. So I've used them 95 times, which is actually lower than what I would think, but anyway. And then top brands by usage in overall, like total, Colourpop is right at the top. I've had my Colourpop palettes for the longest time since I started my channel, which was like 5 years ago now, which is kind of crazy. So my Colourpop usage in total, since I've been tracking, just bear in mind. So I think I only started tracking my usage in 2021, I think it was 2021, and I started my channel in 2020. So yeah. Anyway, my Colourpop usage is 784, but that's in 5 years. So that's kind of crazy. Then we have Alter Ego right underneath it at 568. Again, I only have 3 palettes from Alter Ego, but I love those 3 palettes, and I have had a lot of use on them. I've got the Artemis, the Shadow Kiss, and also Canyon. Love them. I have wanted to buy more, but it's just too expensive to ship them over from the US to where I live. And then my 3rd most used brand is Gloss Gods, which doesn't surprise me. So in total, I have 334 uses on Gloss Gods. So obviously it's a little bit lower this year, but I did use Gloss Gods a lot last year. So it's pretty high up there because Gloss Gods is a brand that I only discovered kind of 2 years ago. So that's quite a lot of use in just 2 years. And then Huda Beauty is my 4th most used brand with just 2 palettes at 332. So that's pretty high too with just 2 palettes. But again, I've had those 2 palettes for a lot longer. And then Urban Decay is my 5th most used brand with just 1 palette. I did used to have the the original Naked palette, but I had to get rid of it. And so those uses are not actually included in this at all. It's just the Urban Decay Stone Vise palette that I have in terms to track. And that's 328 uses in total for that palette, which is crazy. Anyway, let's move on to a different category. So let's go back to eyeshadow pans. I thought that it would be interesting. Out of the 119 that I have, I wanted to know like what colors am I hitting pan on and what type of shade do I hit pan on the most. So that's what we're gonna look at now. So in terms of eyeshadow types, the ones that I have the most is shimmer, which doesn't surprise me. I usually, if I can, I pick a shimmer to hit pan on. I just find them more fun and entertaining. And I do love shimmers over mattes anyway when applying my eyeshadow. So shimmers, I have 61 eyeshadow pans. Mattes, I have 38 eyeshadow pans. Duochromes, I have 9. Now there's some duochromes probably in the shimmer category. This is just the way I've categorized them. And then in 4th place, I have 5 glitter pans. So most of the eyeshadow glitters that I've hit pan on are the Colourpop glitters, like the old original ones. And I find them very easy to hit pan on. Like they were like 1 or 2 uses and I was done. I don't feel like they were like true hard pans to hit, if that makes sense. But anyway, I have 5 of those. 5th place is cream, so like cream to matte, like the Natasha Denonas or like Ultra Ego has them too. So I've also got 5 of those. Have I written 5 or 3? I think it's 5. And then last place, I have Super Shock, which is mostly just Colourpop Super Shocks, and I just have 1 pan in those, which I actually hit this year. So in terms of colors, this is in total again, out of all the ones that I've hit. So my most used like color that I've hit the most color, I wouldn't even say it's a color, is nude, like either a cream or like a lid setting shade or whatever, anything that's very light. I've hit 24 pans on those. And then green is my 2nd most pan that I've hit, which is at 16. Pink is at 15. Orange is at 10. Purple is at 10. Brown is at 9. Blue is at 9. Yellow is at 8. Mauve is 6. Gold is 6. White is 3. Silver is 2. And gray is 1. So those are all the shades that I've hit pan on overall in my collection. And then if we look at just this year alone, in terms of the colors, I don't know if this is of interest, but I thought it was interesting. Nude is at 9. So again, nude is the top one, which makes sense because sometimes it's just easy to pick a nude shade and you hit pan in it. Pink is number 2, where I've hit 5 pans. Blue is number 3. So I have actually gotten into blue quite a lot this year, and I kind of figured out which blue I like. I really like periwinkle, and I like sky blue and like lighter tone blues. I'm just not a fan of darker blues, I think, or like true blues, or even just what's the, like a not a turquoisey blue. What is it? I can't remember. Teal. I don't like teal on my eyes. I think it's a pretty color, but I don't think it suits me. So anyway, blue is number 3, which is surprising. Yellow, I've hit 2 pans. Purple, I've hit 2 pans. Gold, I've hit 2 pans. Green, I've hit 2 pans. Gray, 1, and white, 1. So those are all the pans I've hit so far this year. And then the types of pans that I've hit so far, I've hit 12 mattes, 11 shimmers, 4 duochromes. Again, some of those shimmers may have been duochromes. I'm not quite sure what classifies as a duochrome. I look at it, and if I see 2 different colors, I'm like, yeah, that's a duochrome, but whatever. Some brands I think call shades a duochrome when they don't actually feel like a duochrome, so whatever. Anyway, and then my 4th type of shade that I've hit is the Super Shock, which I said, and that was just at 1. And then I have the brands with the most pans in them, and also the average it took me to hit pan. So I thought this would be interesting, just in case if you don't have a brand or you've never hit pan in one of these brands, it kind of just gives you a flavor of how long at least it took me on average to hit pan for these brands. So Colourpop is at the top in terms of how many pans I have. I have 20 pans in Colourpop, and that's not just this, that's not this year, that is in total. And it takes me about 14 or so uses to hit pan, typically in a Colourpop. Obviously that is combining mattes and shimmers together. And honestly, I think the reason that this is only at 14 is because some of those pans were glitter, so they have averaged the total down. If I didn't have my glitters in there, I know for certain that the average would have been around 20 plus, because it does take a long time to hit pan in Colourpop. So this is a little bit skewed just because I have some of those glitter shades in here that only took me like 2 or 3 uses. Okay, next up we've got Gloss Gods, where it makes sense. I have been hitting pan on a lot of Gloss Gods. I have 14 pans in Gloss Gods, and it takes me an average of 8 uses only. Mattes take me a lot longer, but I've hit pan and more shimmer, so that's why it's averaging a little bit lower. So 8 uses in total. Alter Ego, I have 12 pans in total, and my average to hit pan is 21. So this one is definitely much higher, and I always say it's really hard to hit pan in Alter Ego. I love their shades, but they're just not easy to hit. I mean, you can hit pan, but you have to put the time in. And then we've got Urban Decay, but this is just looking at the Stone Vibes because I only have the one palette. I have 11 pans in that one, and it takes me an average of 15 uses to hit pan in those shades. And then ABH is my 5th brand where I have the most pans, and this is at 9. And again, it takes me about 15 or so uses to hit pan in ABH, which I think is roughly about what I would assume it would be. And then the last category I'm going to talk about, I mean, I could have added more, but I just didn't know what else to add in this video. But I'm going to talk about like the easiest brands to hit pan on, because obviously some of these that I've just spoken about aren't the easiest. So number 1 is Glamshop. My average of hitting pan in Glamshop is 6. But the palettes that I have in Glamshop, the ones that I've hit pan on have all been their shimmers or their duochromes or multichromes. And obviously they're super, super creamy, or they're super, super chunky. And so of course it's not going to take a long time to hit pan in those types of shades. But yeah, the average for me is 6. And then second is NARS, which I know this is absolutely false. I have 1 pan in my NARS palette, which is the Afterglow palette. Now the problem is I got that palette in 2020, and like I said, I didn't start tracking my usage until 2021, probably the middle of 2021. And so I didn't track any of the use that I had on my NARS Afterglow palette prior to that. So I say that it only took me 8 uses to hit pan in that shade. I guarantee you it took me longer, and I haven't hit pan in any other NARS palette. So I believe from just looking at the way that the shades are, I tried to hit pan in one of the mattes in the Afterglow palette, and I think I have 30 plus uses on it, and I still did not have, I don't even have a dent. So I know that this one is wrong, but it's just based on what I have in my stupid little pan from the Afterglow. So take that with a pinch of salt, because I think it's probably closer to 30, 40 uses, to be fair, because they're a shimmer, like their shades are so packed in there, and they're pretty stiff. So I don't think that that's a good representative of how long it takes to hit pan in that shade. But anyway, moving on, number 3 is NC Rain. So this one, I do have 1 pan in one of the palettes that I have. I only have 1 palette, and this one only took me 8 uses. So it's only 1 pan, and again, in 1 palette. So it's not a huge, great, it's not a good way to really see the average, but I'm just giving you what I have. So that's 8 uses. Sample Beauty, I only have the 1 palette, but I do have a lot of pans in that one, and on average it took me 8 uses. So that one, I feel like actually gives you a good average there. And then Gloss Gods is also at 8. So all of these are all at 8. Maybe I average 8, I don't know. But Gloss Gods, I have tons of pans, like I said, and I do have a lot of palettes, and it does on average take me 8 uses. The mattes, I would say, are probably 14 to 15 uses, but most of my pans will be in the shimmer. So, and then in terms of the type of shade to hit pan on, this is the last category. I'm sorry guys, if you're enjoying it, maybe I can do another video, or just let me know what else you'd want to know, and then my next like recap, which will be probably in December, I can try to squeeze it in. But I'm going to talk about the easiest types of shades to hit pan on, at least for me. So number 1 is glitter. On average, it takes me 4 uses to hit pan on the glitter. Number 2 is duochrome. On average, it takes me 8 uses. So a lot of those Gloss Gods, I believe, were duochromes. So kind of makes sense. Number 3 is cream or like cream to powder shades, and that on average it takes me 11 uses to hit pan on them. I do find the Tasha Nona ones very easy to hit pan on. The Ultra Ego ones were okay to hit pan on, but you know. Okay, and then number 4 is shimmer. It takes me on average 11 uses to hit pan on a shimmer as well. Obviously some brands are harder than others, like Ultra Ego Colourpop shimmers I would say are much harder to hit pan on than some other ones, but that's neither here or there. This is just an average. And then number 5 is matte. So these take me on average 19 uses to hit pan. So there's a huge difference between, like, on average it takes me about like 8 to 12 maybe uses, and then mattes are like shoot up to 19, probably closer to 20, 21 in some cases, which makes complete sense. I mean, they're usually packed in quite a bit, and yeah, that makes complete sense. So anyway, those are my eyeshadow pan stats for like my mid-year sort of update. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I don't know if it's gonna come across as interesting as I think it is. I don't know, but I think it's interesting to see what I've been doing, how my collection is looking, and for the most part, I'm really pleased with everything that's going on. So anyway, let me know if you enjoyed the video, if you want to see another one in 6 months' time, and maybe if there's something else that you want me to include in terms of a stat, then I can include it, of course. But hope everyone's doing well, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!